Page 5 now. From Russia without love, instead with purported game-changing nuclear missiles. Russian President Vladimir Putin is bragging about an alleged game-changing heavy-duty paradigm change to his arsenal, a new kind of nuclear missile that has unlimited range, if that's even possible, which completely avoids missile defense systems. If true, game-changing indeed. However, could this boast simply be pre-presidential election hype? Joining me now, the founder of the American Truth Project and Daily Ledger contributor, Barry Nussbaum. Barry, thanks for joining me.
Of course.
So, Barry, I don't know, to me I'm a little skeptical because this is kind of just reminding me of another North Korea situation. What are your thoughts?
Well, the big question, obviously, this today, Morgan, is this a big nothing burger, or does he really have a bomb that can go anywhere, and should we be scared to death?
He's really suggesting that he's putting a nuclear weapon on some type of missile that can take evasive action. He's talking about it going over the terrain. He already has plenty of range to reach the U.S. Khrushchev did that, big deal. But what he's really doing is he's playing to his base in Russia. Don't forget, Putin has an election coming up in about 18 days. Everyone expects him to win hands down, but he's going out and talking about how terrible the West is, how the U.S. can't contain Russia, and they love this in Russia. So he's playing to his base with all this talk about fancy nuclear weapons. Nothing is immune to enemy intercept. If you can use a cyber attack, you can make that fancy missile think it's a refrigerator. Now, that said, the Joint Chiefs have been warning us for 5 years or more that Russia was becoming a serious threat again and that Russia is developing advanced systems. So Putin has said they're working on hypersonic missiles. Those are very, very fast to evade and intercept, that they're working on terrain following, and then he's talked about a submarine as well. Of course, he already has that. Remember the hunt for Red October? So what he's also saying is that, hey, U.S., if you are going to develop new cruise missiles, like our nuclear posture review talked about, well, hey, we have just as good a weapon in Russia. Don't forget, Putin hates NATO. It drives him bonkers to see NATO expanding and thriving on his borders. So part of this really hostile nuclear message is also aimed at NATO at large.
All right, so the guest tells us not to worry technologically, so why the Boris Badenov speech? Well, I think she's right about one thing for sure. Here's a guy running for re-election, and when you run for re-election in Russia, you don't win unless you win big, which means enormous turnout, landslide victory, and basically you're dictator for another 6 years, and that's what Putin wants. So he's playing to the base. These are Russian people that want to return to the days of the Soviet Empire. They've lost a lot of territory, and here's a guy that's president who wants the old days when he ran the KGB. So he wants the election victory, number one. Number two, the scary speech is he's sort of his imitation of the Kim family in Korea and the Ayatollahs in Iran. You act really scary, and what do you get from the United States? Well, history tells us, Morgan, you get concessions. Bill Clinton gave everything to the Kim family in exchange for no nuclear weapons and no ICBMs. They got a lot of money, they got a lot of food, and they still have their nuclear weapons. What happened with Obama? The same thing.
Yep.
Iran threatened everybody, and plane loads, billions of dollars went to Iran, and now they're the leading export of terror. Here's the big question. What's going to happen with Russia? Are we going to end up with a Bill Clinton, Barack Obama response, or are we going to get a Ronald Reagan response out of President Trump?
Yeah, well,
that's the big question of the day.
Well, the Pentagon did say now they are saying that they will bolster their nuclear arsenal in response to Russia's threat. But the funny thing is that Putin said that these nuclear weapons, which include a nuclear-powered cruise missile, a nuclear-powered underwater drone, and a new hypersonic missile, that they all make the United States missile defense look useless. Those was his words, like, quote, useless. But in reports, they're saying that the tests have failed. numerous times, and they've crashed several times. So to me, it's kind of funny. It's like, are you sure, Putin? Is this really all it's cracked up to be? And I'm thinking not so much.
Look, the guy's playing poker, but he doesn't have a full house. He's got a couple of sevens, probably. You don't get concessions by begging. You get concessions by threatening. Even if the threat is, like I said, a pair of sevens, which is probably what Putin's sitting on. He wants trade back. He wants to be forgiven for going into the Baltics. He wants it okay to take over Lebanon and Syria. And the only way he thinks he can do it is by rattling nuclear missiles at the United States. Let's see, will Trump be Reagan or will Trump be Obama? That's the big question of politics today.
Exactly. And bottom line is he is coming up for re-election here in a couple of weeks. And this is a way to show strength. And it's very similar to him, taking shirtless pictures on a bear. This is how he's going to show people he's the man. Thanks, Barry.